Good afternoon. My name is Tim Duncan.
And I'm Kelly Dino.
And today we're presenting the afternoon newscast. Today I'll be reporting on Ronald Reagan's presidency and his achievements as president. President Ronald Reagan led the United States during the Cold War and left unforgettable legacy.
He's considered by many conservatives to be the greatest American president.
And now for our first selection, Kevin Childs will talk about the Supreme Court appointments during Ronald Reagan's presidency.
Hi, it's Kevin Childs here, live behind the scenes at the Reagan debate. But first, I want to talk a little bit about his court appointments. Even though Reagan was elected in 1980, Reagan was elected with less than 51%. He won a decisive re-election victory in 1984. His campaign theme for It's Morning in America was described as his personality being rather than the ballooning federal deflict. Reagan caused the Soviet Union to collapse because of the plea with Mikhail Gorbachev. If we credit Reagan's foreign policy, we will surely face many dangers like the ones we face now. The four of the 9 current Supreme Court justices were appointed by President Reagan. Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve on the court, was appointed in 1981. William H. Rehnquist, whom Reagan elevated to Chief Justice from position of Associate Justice in 1986. Antonia Scalia, named by Reagan to fill the seat vacated by Rehnquist, and Anthony M. Kennedy, appointed to the court in 1987. So the real score for Reagan when it comes to 2 of the Supreme Court is 2 moderate conservatives and 1 deep conservative. Then back to the studio.
For our second part of Reagan's newscast, Matt Pompley will talk about the anti-communist defense policies.
I'm reporting about Ronald Reagan and the anti-communist defense policies. These policies are in place to help stop communism from spreading. This was part of the Reagan Doctrine implemented under the Reagan administration. This was to oppose the global influence of the Soviet Union. The Reagan Doctrine helped push back communism in other places such as Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Other purpose of the Reagan Doctrine was to get rid of the Soviet influence from spreading to other countries.
For the third part, Melanie Mancini will talk about Reaganomics during Reagan's presidency.
Good morning, America. Today we will be talking about Reaganomics. Reaganomics was the most serious attempt to change the course of the U.S. economic policy of any administration since the New Deal. Only by reducing the growth of government, said Ronald Reagan, can we increase the growth of the economy. Reagan's 1981 program for economic recovery had 4 major policy objectives. 1 was to reduce the growth of the government spending. 2 was to reduce the marginal tax rates on income from both labor and capital. 3 was to reduce regulation, and 4 was to reduce inflation by controlling the growth of the money supply. These major policy changes, in turn, were expected to increase saving and investing, increase economic growth, balance the budget, and restore balanced financial markets, and reduce inflation and interest rates. The results of Reaganomics were positive and negative. The positive results were by 1983 inflation decreased and more people found jobs. Businesses boomed also. The negative results were tax cuts caused the federal government to take in less money, and the result was deficit spending. Government had to use borrowed money to fund government programs. This is all the information we have on Reaganomics. Now let's go back to the studio.
And our fourth reporter will be Pierre Barga, and he will discuss about air traffic controller strike.
Thank you, Kaylee. And we are here live from the bathroom of the RHS. And on August 3rd, 1981, the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization, or PETCO, declared a strike for better working conditions, better pay, and more hours of work. In doing this strike, the union violated a law, the USC Supplement 3rd, 1956, that banned strikes by government unions. When word got to the president, Ronald Reagan, he replied to the PETCO strike as a terror to national safety and ordered for the union to return to work immediately under the law of the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947, which is a United States federal law that restricts the activities and power of labor unions. The act, still effective, was sponsored by Senator Robert Taft and Representative Fred A. Hartley, Jr. Using this law, Reagan ordered that 13,000 air traffic controllers return to work, but only 1,300 of the 13,000 returned to work. Reagan saw this as demanded that the remaining workers on strike to return to work within 48 hours or they will forfeit their jobs. On August 5th, Reagan fired 11,345 air traffic controllers that ignored his order to return to work and banned them from federal service for life. After this, the FAA was faced with the task of hiring and trained enough controllers to replace those who were fired. The FAA stated that it would only take 2 years to train and replace them, but it took 10 years. And thank you, and this was Pierre.
The final reporter will be Eduardo Rivera. He will be talking about the biographers.
Go.
Alright, due to technical difficulties, aka Sean being an idiot, we had to re-record this the day after. So, sorry for the rudeness and interruption, but the program will begin. This is the life of Ronald Reagan, President of the United States. Former. Ronald Wilson Reagan was an American actor and politician. He served as the 40th President of the United States, and prior to his presidency, he served as the 33rd Governor of California. Reagan was born in Tampico, Illinois, and raised in Dixon. He was educated at Eureka College, earning a bachelor's arts degree in economics and sociology. After graduating, Reagan moved first to Iowa and worked as a radio broadcaster, and then in 1937 to Los Angeles, where he began a career as an actor. After completing 14 home study Army extension courses, Reagan enlisted in the Army. Enlisted reserve on April 29, 1937, as a private assigned to Troop B 222nd Cavalry at Des Moines, Iowa. He was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Officer Reserve Corps of the Cavalry on May 25, 1937. Reagan was ordered to active duty for the first time on April 18, 1942. However, due to his nearsightedness, he was classified for limited services only, which excluded him from serving overseas. His first assignment was at San Francisco Port and embarkation at Fort Mason, California, as a liaison officer of the Port and Transportation Office. Upon approval of the Army Air Force, he applied to transfer from the cavalry to the AFF on May 15, 1942. And was assigned to the AFF Public Relations, and subsequently the 1st Motion Picture Unit in Culver City, California. On January 14, 1943, he was promoted to First Lieutenant and was sent to the Provisional Task Force Show Unit. Okay. Alright, due to technical difficulties again, as irritating as that is, we had to do some iPad switching. So never record on the iPad ever, even if your life depends on it. Okay. Ronald Reagan, of course, was then reassigned to the First Motion Picture Unit in November 1944, where he remained at the end of World War II, slowed down the damn teleprompter. Scroll up. Is this gonna get cut? I hope so. Fort MacArthur, California, where he was separated from active duty on December 9th, 1945. Probably something there. Reagan never left the United States during the war, though. He kept the film reel, however, something he obtained while in service, depicting the liberation of Auschwitz, as he believed that someday doubts would arise of whether or not the Holocaust had occurred. Reagan's start in politics occurred during his work at GE, General Electric. Originally, he was a member of the Democratic Party, but due to the party's shifting platforms during the 1950s, he switched to the Republican Party in 1962. After delivering a rousing speech in support of Barry Goldwater's presidential candidacy in 1964, he was persuaded to seek the California governorship, winning 2 years later and again in 1970. He was defeated in his run for the Republican presidential nomination in 1968 and in 1976, but both won the nomination in the general election in 1980, defeating the incumbent Jimmy Carter. After leaving office in 1989, the Reagans purchased a home in Bel Air, Los Angeles, in addition to the Reagan Ranch in Santa Barbara. They regularly attended Bel Air Presbyterian Church and occasionally made appearances on behalf of the Republican Party. Reagan delivered a well-received speech at the 1992 Republican National Convention. Reagan continued to publicly speak in favor of the line item veto the Brady Bill, a constitutional amendment requiring the balanced budgets, and the repeal of the 22nd Amendment, which prohibits anyone from serving more than 2 terms as president. In 1992, Reagan established the Ronald Reagan Freedom Award and the newly formed Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. His final public speech was on February 3rd, 1994, during a tribute to him in Washington, D.C., and his last major public appearance was at the funeral of Richard Nixon on April 27, 1944. Unfortunately, in August 1994, at the age of 83, Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, an incurable neurological disorder which destroys brain cells and ultimately causes death. In November, he informed the nation through a handwritten letter. There was soon speculation over how long Reagan had demonstrated symptoms of mental degeneration. Former CBS White House correspondent Leslie Stahl recounted that in her final meeting with the president in 1986, that Reagan didn't seem to know who Stahl was, that she came close to reporting the president as senile. But at the end of the meeting, Reagan had regained his alertness. However, Dr. Lawrence K. Altman, a physician employed as the reporter of the New York Times, noted that the line, quote, "the line between mere forgetfulness and the beginning of Alzheimer's can be fuzzy," unquote. And all 4 Reagan's White House doctors said that they saw no evidence of Alzheimer's disease while he was the president. As the years went on, the disease slowly destroyed Reagan's mental capacity. He was only able to recognize a few people in it, including his wife, Nancy. On February 6, 2001, Reagan reached the age of 90, becoming the 3rd former president to do so. Reagan's public appearances became much less frequent with the progression of the disease, and as a result, his family decided he would live in a quiet semi-isolation with his wife, Nancy. Reagan died of pneumonia, complicated by Alzheimer's disease, at his home in Bel Air, California, on the afternoon of June 5, 2004. A short time after his death, Nancy Reagan released a statement saying, quote, "My family and I would like the world to know that President Ronald Reagan has died after 10 years of Alzheimer's disease at 93 years of age. We appreciate everyone's prayers." Unquote.
Once again, this is Kaylee.
This is Tim Duncan.
That's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in with us.
My name is Tim James,
And I'm Kaylee.
and today we'll be presenting at the afternoon newscast. Today I will be reporting on Ronald Reagan's presidency.
That's all, folks.